everybody? Are you guys good? You good? Okay. So for some motor development delays, providing a lot of different motor activities through play and songs and equipment, that's what I was talking about earlier. Using the living room as a jungle gym, putting out different barriers that they can crawl over and go over and let them practice those things and let them try to figure out the problem solving of those things. How do I get over this? How do I get under it? And talking about that. I want you to go over the couch cushion. Now I want you to go under mom's legs. So those are different things. And again, language development, that's helping them with that listening, following rules, and working on that gross motor development. I see a lot of tremors with fine motor development, which also relates to a lot of frustration because they're just getting that body relaxed enough to open their hands, and now you're asking them to do something really advanced, like hold a pencil. That's really hard for them because they've just mastered pincer grasp. And so remember that because they're still pretty unsteady. You know, when we're trying to do block stacking and see if they can put the block on top of the other block, a lot of times it's very shaky. And so those are times where you can modify. Maybe make the base a little bit bigger, maybe make the blocks a little bit bigger, modify that so they don't get as frustrated as they're trying to do block stacking or things, or puzzles or things like that. Try to modify it because they are going to get frustrated until they get more and more practice with that. And then they are diagnosed with some different intellectual disabilities and learning disabilities like that, you know, dyslexia, ADD, OCD, those things like that. Okay, so this is a long list of some different difficulties in the pre-K age. They're constantly moving, they can't sit still. They're difficulty calming to sleep, unable to sleep 4+ hours at a time. They're always moving very fast. There seems to never be a slow gear. Every time that they go anywhere, they're running. There never seems to be a time where they just slow it down. They sometimes can be picky eaters. They don't like to be touched or refuse to touch different textures. So I see this a lot when they go to school and the teacher has to have this, you know, cotton ball bunny thing for Easter, and that child's not touching the cotton ball. You better believe they're not touching it. And so abnormal muscle tone, delayed gross and fine motor skills, delayed ability to coordinate, the use of both hands. So using both hands to do something that's asymmetrical, so one hand holds the string, the other hand does beating. It's not something that does the same movement at the same time, but they're doing something that's different, so different parts of the brains are having to be used. That's pretty difficult. Or cutting with scissors, and one hand has to hold the paper, or the other hand has to cut the scissors. That's pretty difficult to do. They're too still. This was some kiddo that I think we saw when somebody do a shadow visit, that they would rather sit and watch others play rather than go out and initiate play. So sometimes you have that child that would rather sit back and watch. They don't know how to approach play. They don't know how to parallel play. They don't know how to initiate social skills. And then they're very unbalanced and clumsy, running into things because they don't have that slow gear. They're running. They don't understand that there's obstacles. They're going to run into the furniture rather than walk around it. All of those things can really be helped by heavy work activities. This is a lot of gross motor development things. So if you were to come to my child care center 3 months ago, you would see our children right before nap time carrying pillowcases through the hallways that had books in them. They were dragging them through the hallways. Or at the end of the day, they were helping the teacher take the garbage out, and they were carrying the garbage by themselves all the way out, way down the road to the trash can. Now, that's not child labor, as most people would think if they were to come and be like, this is really weird, why are you having your children do this? And also, that's really weird because you're doing that before nap time. Why are you doing that? Okay, same thing. They're using their body to do really heavy things. Same thing, those chemicals in their brain are being released, meaning that a lot of times they need to do heavy work before sleeping. Okay, remember that of all the things I can teach you about the older kiddos, about sleeplessness, they need to do heavy work before they go to sleep. So that's very opposite, because if you ask any teacher or any parent ever, they're going to say, I am not riling my kid up before I put them to sleep. That is the opposite of what I want them to do. We take a bath, we read a book, we drink water, we go to sleep. Not for these guys. They are the opposite. They need to go outside and they need to run. They need to climb. They need to get on the monkey bars. They need to hang their body off the monkey bars. They need to climb. They need to crawl. They need to do bear walks. They need to do hermit crab crawls. They need to do all of these things because they're heavy work. Because of all those things that are being released, and those chemicals are being released in their body to help them relax. So for little babies, you have swaddling. For older kids, you have weighted blankets, and you have heavy work. Anything, heavy work. Please remember this, because it will help so much. That's the one thing that I was so happy that I got to see work before our program was being shut down, is that I can share this with these guys. We got pillowcases, we got baskets. I would put a child in a basket and let the other one push them and pull them down the hallway. We would put 2 of them on a blanket and let the other kid pull them through the hallway while the others are sitting on the blanket. Anything that's making them work hard is called heavy work. So these are just some different examples. I have a handout up here. It's like 4 different pages of different heavy work activities that you can do with your kiddos. I'll send these out to you with the slides and all of that. But there's a million different ITs. This came straight from an OT. This was straight from an OT. And so these are things that you can tell these parents that you already have this trick of doing heavy work. So I know they're going to look at you sideways, because our families did. They're like, why am I doing this before they go to sleep? That's against everything that I've learned. It's just children develop differently. Yes?
Do you have a good amount of time that they should do this?
We do it for about 30 minutes before they go to sleep. 30 minutes is a really long time, but it's the same thing as if you imagine all the kids go outside to play before they go down for a nap. It's the same sort of thought process. So about 30 minutes. Now, they're probably not going to be able to handle that for 30 minutes, but even letting them just run through the hallways for 30 minutes sometimes will just help them get on a rider, get on a toy, just run it out, and then that'll help them calm their bodies down. So there's 4 pages on this. So these are just some of the examples that I like to use. Pillow fights, jumping on the trampoline, taking the couch cushions off and crashing into them. Many of my teachers really frowned upon that, because they were like, they're running and they're crashing into our soft area, and that's only supposed to be for where they read books and they get quiet. And I'm like, hey, if that's what they want to do, then we'll make that area for them the crashing area, because they like it. That's why they do it. They're seeking it out on their own, and you don't realize that's what they're doing. So when they're jumping off of things, it's like their body is telling them, I need to do this. They just don't understand why. So if you give them some different activities, like for hard work, that are safe to use, like pillow fights are pretty safe. Don't use the really heavy ones. But yeah, I only have a few of these handouts, but I'll send you the other ones out today or tomorrow. Some sensory intervention strategies. Continued feeding problems. So feeding therapy. We talked about this just a little bit ago. I didn't even know what feeding therapy was. I really didn't. I'm not going to lie. I had no idea what feeding therapy was, what they do with the feeding therapist. And so, but I had a lot of kids that went to feeding therapy. It's just something that I didn't do. And so if they do have continued feeding problems, or you think it's sensory related, then I would refer them to a feeding therapist. I would never be that person. So that's something that was new to me about the sensory intervention. And then we talked about this earlier, the GI disturbances may develop after age 1. I've seen that happen too, especially kids that really like fruit products. And then some little different sensory tips. One of my favorites is the tight swim shirts for compression feeling. So if you have a family that Or I've had children that have sensory issues that they only wear swim shirts every single day because that's what they like. So it's kind of like wearing a little bit of a weighted vest because they're still getting that same compression feeling. Weighted stuffed animals, like we were talking about before, putting something in there, putting a Ziploc bag full of beans, dried beans in there, and zipping it into the stuffed animal will help that stuffed animal be really weighted. And massages. So there's this really great resource from Nurturing Parenting called Nurturing Touch. And this is a wonderful resource. This is what I used to do in my parenting classes. It's a DVD that teaches you how to do massages on infants and some older children, so some toddlers, preschool age children. And there's also a little booklet that comes with it. I love Nurturing Touch because it's very therapeutic. It's teaching these families how to do nurturing touches with that child. What's too much, what's too little. And so sometimes I would just go in and use that as if their goal is sleeplessness, that they're not sleeping for a long time. Oh my gosh, look how many things we've already talked about. If you get to that point, and massages cost nothing. That's your hands. They don't cost anything. So you have weighted blankets, you have heavy work, and you have nurturing touch. So you have that therapeutic joint compressions and massages. And so the massages is the same principle as the joint compressions, starting from what's closest to the heart and moving away from the heart. So starting at the shoulder and going down to the wrist, or starting at the thigh and going down to the ankle. And so using very light pressure. Remember that those kiddos have eczema. A lot of them do, and there's sensory issues. So remember that, depending on what type of like lubricant that you're going to use. Don't use lotions that are scented. Use very sensitive things, like you use baby oil. I've even used coconut oil. I mean, I've had a mother that used olive oil one time, and that works too, seriously. So there's different things that you can use. Just be aware, a lot of those children are going to have sensitivities to like the Johnson & Johnson lavender lotion. Oh, I've seen so many kids like have to go to the doctor because of breakouts from that stuff because of their skin issues. So just be aware when you are talking about this that you're using different types of products that are really easy on skin that has like eczema and dryness. So the same sort of thing, you're going to use that light pressure. And can I show you, can I use your arm? Can I show you what type of pressure that I'm using? It's very, very light. All they're needing is just that light pressure to get their body to relax enough to get to that sleep state. Okay, we're almost done, guys. Almost done. Got a few slides left. I thought this was really important to know because we go into homes and we're doing early intervention, and all we have is a services coordinator and an early interventionist, and when do I refer to services? Or when do I talk to that service coordinator about getting more services? Or when do I do this? So there's always a time where we're saying, like, I am not a feeding therapist, I'm not a speech pathologist, I am not, there's all these things that I'm not. And so I'm also not an occupational therapist. And so a lot of these kids are going to display all these different things that you're going to feel very out of your realm. And when do you refer them to OT? And so I thought this was a really great, this is a little different list of things that when you probably should refer them to OT. This was from an OT who gave me this. Like, if you have kids that come to your center that need services and you're seeing some of these things, refer them to me. We work very closely with Dr. Weinstein and Dr. Trainer, that whole crew of people. They're really great. These are actually from Oak Ridge over at Methodist that I talked to. So they're really, really great. That's where I got a lot of the OT information from. And so if they're delayed grasping and visual motor skills, child that's over 1, so if you have a 2-year-old that still has grasping problems, refer them to OT. Poor sensory processing skills, meaning they're still having difficulty calming down, they're unable to perform daily activities like dressing and eating and sleeping. If you have those kids that just don't, that's the number one thing I hear from you all is the older kiddos, what do I do when they don't sleep? there's a lot of things that go into that. Now, you can try all these tricks that I'm giving you, but you may need to refer them to OT as well. There's no internal motivation to play. They just want to sit and observe. They're very passive. They have poor self-confidence, and they're unable to tolerate touch. Those are some things that we really need to get those kiddos to OT, because earlier intervention, earlier that we can start that, the better we can help them, the better we can help them at home with everything that OT is giving them. We're out of our realm sometimes when it comes to a lot of these things, and so we may need to step back and say there possibly needs to be referral here, because these things that we're doing isn't working. So some overall strategies over intervention. A lot of the research that I said is early intervention is key. So as long as we can get those kids in by before 6, is a really, really great start for them. We can get these integrated into their daily routines. We can get these integrated into their normal culture and their habits and their family dynamics. The better outcome it is going to be for these kiddos. Improvements can be made on their executive functioning throughout life. A lot of people ask me, are these kids going to be their entire life having meltdowns in the classroom and having a hard time processing things and following rules? They can be made, but we just need to, teach all of these things to these parents and the foster families. Making sure their environment is stable, of course, is going to be the better outcome. So sometimes that means stepping back and saying, okay, well, it looks like maybe you do need some respite care, or maybe we need to refer you for some help for, who am I thinking of? Janet Cochran from, what am I thinking of? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Anyway, why can't I not think of? Anyway, my mind just went blank for that. There's some different services that you can help the family if it's a biological family and they need like long-term respite care where they are in a crisis. You can step back and give them some referrals for services for someone to kind of come in and help that child. Because again, oxygen mask, mom needs to take care of herself, dad needs to take care of himself before we can take care of the kiddos. So that's really important too. But making sure that environment is nurturing. So environmental factors play a huge role, as well as behavior, on their brain development. We know that. And then nature versus nurture. We know all about nature versus nurture. It doesn't matter if this child was born with an AS, depending on the nurture that we're giving this child, we can help them thrive. The nature that we're putting in here was already given to them at birth, but our nurturing environment and the nurturing skills and all this parenting education, intervention strategies that we're giving these families can actually help that child thrive so much later in life. This list keeps growing every time I do this. How do we care for these children? Obviously, early intervention is a great step. They're already in the right direction by getting referrals, so that is wonderful. We all need to be on the same page. So whether I'm referring somebody and then teacher is talking to them and then EI comes in and then speech pathologist comes in, all these different people, we all need to make sure we're on the same page. Possibly the TEEDS page, but that we're all working together as one unit, because we're all giving services to this family. They're all getting treatment from all of us. No matter if it were me that they're being, I'm their EI, or whether, I send them to Anna as the EI because I moved to a different area, we're all in the same, we all have the same information. That way we're giving the families the same level of care. They're all getting the same information. We're all on the same page. All of us, all of them, we're all on the same page. Integrating the family needs with existing services, that's kind of what I was talking about before when I had that family that didn't know what WIC was. And okay, well, that's something that I need to educate you about. So next time I come, I'm going to give you the WIC, website, so that way you can sign up for that. Or it sounds like your daughter, who is the child's mother, is needing some mental health services. It sounds to me like she is needing to be referred to a treatment center, which I got that text message the other day from Chase, and that happens sometimes. And so I didn't put it on this slide, but if you do ever need information about referring families to services, I can give those to you. There's lots of different services in our area, fortunately, in the Knox County area, so I can give those to you because you are going to run across that. You are going to run across families in rural areas who don't have any services, and that child was going with NAS, and there was a DCS referral, and on their plan, their permanency plan says that they're going to NA meetings, and they don't know what that is, and they don't know where to go. So that's actually part of that existing services. If you feel that they need more services, they're reaching out to you because you are a constant person in their life. You are a trusting person. You are the safest person they've ever met, because let me tell you, you are the safest person that they've ever met. If you're working with those biological families, that they trust you and they're going to confide in you, and they may ask for help in a different way. And so if you need that information, I can help you with that. I know a lot of different services in the area to help them for treatment.
Do you have a list of local treatment
I
facilities?
do have a list. I didn't think you all would want it. I didn't even think about it, but I should have put it on the slide. But there are tons. There's the treatment center that I just left. They still are taking. Our program got cut because it was a daycare center, but the women's facility is still there and going. But there's lots of different services in the Knox County area. Yes.
So I have an adopting parent who from day one said, is there any support groups for NAS? Are there any support groups for sensory processing disorder? So me and the service coordinator, have tried to help her, but I don't really think that there is. We've got Facebook pages, we've got a lot of those going, and then there's ASK, which is Autism Site Hospital, which is not exactly what she,
It's a foster family.
It's not really foster, actually, technically, she will tell you. She's a guardian, and so she's done the foster system. So she hasn't had any of their training.
Okay. I do have some different services I can refer you to for that. There are some groups, especially Helen Ross McNabb Center. There's probably like 6 different groups. Now remember that a lot of those groups are going to be birth and younger. I mean, birth to 1 is what I want to say. 12 months and younger is what I was trying to say. So remember that a lot of those they're postnatal up to age 1. And so there are a lot of groups that you can go to talk to. I can give you that information too. Yeah. But a lot of times if you just call like some main numbers, like at Helen Ross McNabb, you call the main number, they can refer you to where you need to go. They'll refer you to okay, this is not the program for you, but I'm going to take all your information. I'm going to refer you to this other program that sounds like it's going to fit your needs more appropriately. And the same thing that goes for, actually I had a family that has an older child in their foster mom, and she said, Helen Ross McNabb is coming here sometime this week for services for the older kiddo. There are a ton of social, emotional services for older children, like preschool age children and up at Helen Ross McNabb Center, like a ton. They have a whole program center for it, and there's like 10 different programs that are dealing with just different types of social, emotional disturbances. There's one that's just for trauma. There's a bunch of different ones that I can give you that information to. And then, of course, all these other great things that we talked about, the SIDS risk, education and training, that compassion and consistency and sensitivity and respect all into one loop. The trauma-informed care that we talked about earlier, modeling and teaching, and then being an advocate, because everyone in here is an advocate for these children, and being an advocate is also about educating and trying to help this family be an advocate for this child, because they can't speak for themselves. They have to have someone that's on their side.